It was Christmas dinner, the kind of night that's supposed to feel warm and safe, with the smell of cinnamon rolls drifting from the kitchen and the tree glowing in the corner. But instead of joy, I got her. My sister, Madison, set down her wine glass, leaned back in her chair, and said, "You don't belong in our family." The clinking forks stopped. My mother, Linda, gave a slow nod. "She's right." And my father, Robert, didn't even look up from carving the roast. "Yeah, maybe it's better this way." I stared at them, waiting for someone to laugh, to say it was a bad joke. No one did. So I pushed back my chair, picked up my coat, and said, "Guess I'll save you the trouble." I left quietly, the Christmas lights still twinkling behind me, wondering why this didn't hurt as much as it should. I wish I could say that moment at Christmas dinner came out of nowhere, that it was some bizarre, drunken outburst that didn't really mean anything. But the truth? Madison had been laying the groundwork for years. She was the golden child. Always had been. Madison could crash Dad's car in high school and still get a smile and, "At least you're safe from him." I, on the other hand, could bring home straight A's and still hear Mom ask why I wasn't more outgoing, like your sister. It wasn't just the favoritism. Madison knew exactly how to make herself indispensable to my parents, running little errands for them, calling every other day, and showing up with flowers for Mom, just because. And she knew how to make me look wrong. Too quiet, too independent. Not a family person, as she'd put it with that faux concerned tilt of her head. Over the past year, she'd gotten bolder. At family gatherings, she'd toss out comments like, "Claire just doesn't seem to get us," or, "She's more of a lone wolf." My parents never disagreed. Sometimes, they'd nod along like she was pointing out a sad but undeniable fact. The thing is, I didn't need their approval the way Madison did. I had my own life, my job, my friends, my little apartment in the city. But being iced out of your own family isn't something you can completely shrug off. There's a sting, even when you see it coming. That Christmas night, as I drove home, I replayed their faces in my mind. Madison's smirk, Mom's quiet agreement, Dad's casual dismissal. I'd like to say I felt anger, but mostly, I felt clarity. See, Madison didn't just want to be the favorite. She wanted to be the only one who mattered, and I'd finally realized just how far she'd go to make that happen. The signs had been there. Last Thanksgiving, she accidentally left me off the family group text about dinner plans, then claimed she'd assumed I was too busy. Over the summer, she told my parents I'd canceled on a weekend visit at the last minute, even though I'd never been invited in the first place. It was all small stuff, but it added up. By Christmas, she'd built this image of me as someone who didn't care, didn't participate, didn't belong. All she had to do at dinner was say it out loud. And my parents? They didn't even blink. When I got home that night, I called my best friend Jenna. She answered on the second ring, and when I told her what had happened, she let out a low whistle. "Wow, they actually said that? In front of each other?" "Yep," I said, kicking off my heels. No hesitation, no attempt to sugarcoat it. "That's brutal," she said, then after a pause. "But, you know you're better off without that kind of energy, right?" I smiled, though she couldn't see it. "Yeah, I know." Still, the seed had been planted in my mind. This wasn't just about them being rude at Christmas. Madison had been maneuvering toward this for months, maybe years. And I couldn't help but wonder what her endgame was. The next week, I kept my distance. No calls, no texts. I told myself I was done engaging with any of it. But then, something happened that made me realize Madison's little campaign against me wasn't over. It was only just beginning. A week after Christmas, I stopped by my parents' place to drop off a sweater I'd borrowed from Mom months ago. I wasn't planning to stay just a quick in and out, but the moment I stepped into the hallway, I noticed something strange. 3 suitcases lined up by the front door, my mother's big teal roller, Dad's beat-up black Samsonite, and a sleek new one I'd never seen before, probably Madison's. Madison herself appeared in the doorway to the kitchen, phone in hand, wearing a straw sun hat in the middle of January. Well, she said, tilting her head with that fake surprise. "Claire, didn't expect to see you here." I glanced at the luggage. "Going somewhere?" She smirked. Bahamas. Family trip. Family trip. The words hit me like a flick of ice water. No one had mentioned anything to me. Not an email, not a text, not even a passive-aggressive voicemail. Nice, I said flatly. When do you leave? Tomorrow morning, she replied, her tone dripping with amusement. You know, it's a shame you're not coming. But, well, you don't really like family stuff, right? I was halfway to the door when she followed me into the hallway, speaking just loud enough for my parents who were packing in the kitchen to hear. What are you gonna do all alone for a whole week? Watch TV in your pajamas? Order takeout? She laughed, tossing her hair like she'd just delivered a killer joke. I turned slowly, meeting her eyes. I could see she was fishing for a reaction, something she could twist into proof that I was bitter, jealous, or pathetic. So I smiled, the calm, infuriating kind of smile that made her jaw tighten. I hope they take you to a hospital for the mentally ill on this trip, I said sweetly. Maybe they'll have room for mom and dad, too. Her face went crimson. Within seconds, she was yelling shrill, theatrical, loud enough to rattle the ornaments on the hall table. My parents rushed out of the kitchen, their hands automatically going to her shoulders. You're so cruel, Mom said, shaking her head at me. Why can't you be more like your sister? I shrugged. Because I'd rather be sane. The look on Madison's face was pure triumph. She thought she'd gotten to me. But honestly, I just wanted to get out of there before she found another angle to jab at. When I left, I didn't feel sad or left out. I felt relieved. The idea of them being thousands of miles away, somewhere sunny, while I had the house and my life to myself, that was the best news I'd had all week. I had no idea that in just a few days, my phone would start buzzing with call after call, and that Madison's perfect little vacation was about to implode. The morning after they left, I woke up to silence. No clinking coffee cups from Dad in the kitchen. No Mom humming along to the radio. No Madison's heels clicking on the hardwood as she strutted around like she owned the place. Just quiet. It felt incredible. I made a big breakfast, pancakes, bacon, the works, and ate at the dining table without anyone passing comments about carbs or how breakfast should be lighter. I spent the afternoon reading in the sunroom, curled up under a blanket, then put on my favorite music and danced in the kitchen while making dinner. Day 2 was more of the same. I binged my favorite old sitcoms, took long baths, and even tried out a new recipe for lemon bars. For the first time in ages, the house felt like it belonged to me. By the morning of day 3, I'd almost forgotten they existed. That's when my phone buzzed. It was 10:04 a.m., and I was flipping pancakes. Madison's name lit up my screen. I let it go to voicemail. 5 minutes later, another call. Ignored. By the time I sat down to eat, I had 7 missed calls. I picked up my phone, thumb hovering over the block button. But something curiosity, maybe, made me pause. When the 8th call came in, I answered. What? I said, my voice flat. Finally, Madison's voice, high-pitched, shaky, and panicked, came through the line. Claire, I've been calling you for hours. Why didn't you answer? Because I don't care, I said, taking a bite of pancake. What do you want? We're in trouble, she blurted out. Define trouble. She hesitated, and that was my first clue this was going to be good. Madison never hesitated unless she was about to lie. We got robbed. I set my fork down. You got robbed. On your perfect little family vacation? Yes, she snapped. Some guy stole all our money. Mom and Dad are freaking out and we're stuck here with no way to pay for the hotel or get home. I didn't know who else to call. Why not call Ethan? I asked, meaning her husband. Silence. Oh, I said slowly, a grin spreading. You didn't tell him, did you? What happened, Maddie? Did the guy take more than just your money? Shut up, she hissed. This isn't funny. Oh, it's hilarious, I said, leaning back in my chair. Let me guess you went somewhere you shouldn't have. And now you're too embarrassed to admit it. Am I close? Her voice sharpened. Are you going to help us or not? I pretended to think. No. But maybe you can ask one of those locals you like to hang out with. I'm sure they'd be thrilled to help. She started yelling, but I hung up. For the rest of the morning, my phone buzzed nonstop calls, Texts, voicemails. Mom tried guilt. I thought you were better than this. We're your family. Dad kept it short. We need money. Now. By the end of the day, I'd counted 15 missed calls. I stared at the screen, smirking. Family? I thought. Didn't you just tell me I don't belong? I typed out a single reply to Madison. Sorry, I'm just a roommate, remember? Then I switched my phone off. I woke up the next morning to my phone buzzing on the nightstand, even though I'd turned it off the night before. Apparently, I'd forgotten that when you power it back on to check the time, every unread message comes pouring in at once. The notifications scrolled down my screen like a slot machine. From Madison, you're unbelievable. From Mom, we raised you better than this. From Dad, we're stuck here. Help us. I put the phone face down and went to make coffee. It wasn't that I didn't understand how bad their situation probably was. Being stranded in another country with no cash and no backup plan sounds like a nightmare. But the thing is, this was their nightmare, not mine. And for once, I wasn't going to let Madison shove the mess she'd made onto my plate. Around noon, another call came in from Mom. Against my better judgment, I answered. Claire, she said, her voice already thick with disappointment. I just can't believe you'd leave us like this. We're your family. I took a slow sip of coffee. Last week, you told me I didn't belong in this family, remember? That was Madison talking, Mom said quickly. No, I corrected. You said she's right. Those were your exact words. Mom was quiet for a moment before sighing heavily. You're being petty. I laughed. And you're being selective. You can't tell me I'm not family one day and then expect me to swoop in like a loyal daughter the next. That's not how it works. From the background, I heard Madison shouting, Ask her if she's proud of herself. I hung up. By that evening, I'd lost count of how many times my phone lit up. It was almost funny, the desperation in their messages growing with each hour. First, it was demands. Then, guilt. Then promises to talk things out once they were home. But I didn't believe a word of it. I'd been in this family long enough to know that talk things out meant pretend it never happened and hope you play along. That night, Jenna came over. I poured us each a glass of wine and told her the whole story. They're just mad you're not playing your usual role, she said. You're finally not giving them what they want. Yeah, I said, staring at the blinking light on my phone, one more voicemail waiting to be ignored. And it's driving them crazy. By the time I went to bed, I felt oddly light. I wasn't worried about them. I wasn't worried about what would happen when they got home. In fact, I was looking forward to it. Because if Madison thought I was cruel for refusing to help, she hadn't seen anything yet. I heard them before I saw them. Car doors slammed in the driveway, followed by Mom's voice, loud and clipped, barking something about luggage. Dad muttered something I couldn't make out, and then Madison's voice cut through it all, sharp as broken glass. The front door flew open. Madison stormed in first, cheeks flushed, hair a tangled mess. Her husband, Ethan, trailed behind her carrying 2 overstuffed suitcases, his jaw tight. You're unbelievable, Madison snapped, jabbing a finger at me before I'd even had the chance to say hello. We needed you, and you ignored us. I leaned back against the wall, arms folded. Sorry, I said, my tone making it very clear I wasn't. I didn't know roommates were supposed to cover each other's holidays. This isn't a joke, Dad cut in, his face red. We were stranded in a foreign country. Do you have any idea how humiliating it was to beg for help from strangers? Humiliating? I echoed, raising an eyebrow. Like being told you have no place in your own family? Because I wouldn't know anything about that. Mom let out an exasperated sigh. Why do you always have to be so difficult? We're your family, and families help each other. Oh, now we're family? I said, laughing. Last week, I was just a burden. Or did you forget? Madison started pacing like a caged animal, hands flailing. You are such a child. Do you have any idea how much stress you caused us? Do you even care? I met her eyes. No. And you know why? Because you don't care about me. You never have. All you've ever done is tear me down. And now you expect me to bail you out? Not happening. The room went quiet. For a moment, Madison actually looked rattled, like she hadn't expected me to say it so plainly. Mom opened her mouth to say something, but before she could, Ethan spoke up from the doorway. She's right. Everyone turned to look at him. Madison's head whipped around so fast I thought she might give herself whiplash. What? She demanded. Ethan set the suitcases down with a thud. Claire's right, he said evenly. You treat her like garbage, then wonder why she doesn't want to help you. Maybe if you respected her a little more, she'd feel differently. Madison stared at him, her face going pale. I can't believe you're taking her side. I'm not taking sides, he said, calm but firm. I'm telling you the truth. The air in the room shifted. For the first time in years, I felt like someone in this family actually saw me. It was a strange mix of vindication and disbelief. Of course, the moment didn't last. Dad cleared his throat, the classic peacekeeper move. Look, he said, we've all been through a lot this week. Let's just move on and put this behind us. Sure, I said, reaching for my bag on the couch. Let's put it behind us. In fact, let's put all of it behind us. Because I'm done. Mom frowned. Done? I'm moving out, I said. Packing my things tonight. Madison rolled her eyes. Oh please, you've said that before. This time I mean it, I said, my voice steady. And I'm not coming back. I didn't wait for their responses. I went upstairs, grabbed a suitcase from the closet, and started pulling clothes from the drawers. My hands were shaking not from fear, but from the adrenaline of finally cutting the cord. By the time I zipped the bag shut, the shouting downstairs had quieted. I didn't know if they were stunned into silence or just too tired to keep going. Either way, it didn't matter. Because tonight, I was leaving, and this time, there was no turning back. I thought packing my bags would be the end of it. But 2 nights later, I got a knock at my grandmother's door, my temporary refuge until I figured out my next move. It was Ethan. He looked like he hadn't slept since they got back. His shirt was wrinkled, his eyes shadowed. I need to talk to you, he said, glancing over his shoulder before stepping inside. My grandmother raised an eyebrow but left us alone in the kitchen. It's about Madison, he began. I laughed bitterly. Isn't it always? No, this is serious, he said. The robbery in the Bahamas, it wasn't random. I froze. What are you talking about? She planned it, he said, his voice low and tight. She knew the guy. She gave him the money herself. Said it was an investment opportunity. But I've been checking our accounts, and she's been draining them for months. I stared at him, my mind racing. You're telling me she staged the whole thing? Yes, he said, rubbing the back of his neck. And the police report against you. That was her idea too, to distract everyone while she cleaned out the rest. I leaned back, the pieces clicking together in my head. Wow, even for Madison, that's next level. Ethan met my eyes. I don't know who else to turn to. Your parents will take her side no matter what, unless they see proof. I have that proof, but I can't confront her alone. I hesitated. Getting involved meant stepping back into the chaos I'd just walked away from. But then I remembered the years of little cuts, the exclusion, the lies, the public takedowns. Maybe this was the only way to end it for good. Fine, I said. But if we're doing this, we're doing it my way. No screaming matches, no giving her an out. Just the truth, laid out where no one can spin it. The next evening, we met at Ethan's house. My parents were already there, sitting stiffly on the couch while Madison paced in front of them like an over-caffeinated lawyer preparing for trial. She stopped mid-sentence when she saw me. What is she doing here? She snapped. I invited her, Ethan said firmly. She deserves to be here. Madison's lips thinned. You have no right. Let's skip the theatrics, I cut in. Ethan knows about the robbery. He knows about the money you took. And I know about the fake police report. My parents gasped. She's lying, Madison shouted, turning toward them. She's just trying to turn you against me. Stop, Ethan said sharply. He reached into a messenger bag and pulled out a stack of papers, dropping them onto the coffee table with a satisfying thud. Bank statements, texts, even the copy of the police report you filed against Claire, all in your handwriting, all with your signature. The room went dead quiet except for the rustle of paper as my father picked up the top sheet. His face drained of color as he flipped through the stack. This, this can't be true, he said, looking at Madison. Tell me this isn't true. Madison's eyes filled with tears, but not the quiet, remorseful kind. These were loud, messy, performative sobs. I only did it because I was desperate, she wailed. I didn't mean for it to get this far. You didn't mean to get mugged? I said, arms crossed. You didn't mean to steal from your husband or lie to the police? Shut up, she screamed, rounding on me. This is all your fault. If you had just left like I told you, I laughed. Wow. You're actually blaming me for your crimes. Classic Madison. My father stood, his voice suddenly cold. We have to go, he said to my mother, taking her arm. What about her? Mom whispered, nodding at Madison. She's not our problem anymore, Dad said without looking back. Madison's mouth fell open. You're just going to leave me? You did this to yourself, he said. I can't help you anymore. And just like that, they walked out the door. Madison turned to me, her face a mask of rage. Are you happy now? Ecstatic, I said. And just so you know, if you ever try something like this again, I won't just walk away. I'll make sure you pay for it. She stormed out, the door slamming hard enough to rattle the pictures on the wall. Ethan let out a long, shaky breath. Thank you, he said quietly. I don't know what I would have done without you. You would have figured it out, I said. You're stronger than you think. In the weeks that followed, everything shifted. Madison moved out of Ethan's house. He filed for divorce and quietly began untangling himself from the mess she'd left behind. My parents pretended none of it had happened, which was fine by me. I stopped answering their calls. I stayed at my grandmother's for a while, saving money and enjoying the steady calm that came with being around someone who actually liked having me there. By spring, I'd found my own place in Boston, a tiny apartment with creaky floors and a view of the Charles River. It wasn't much, but it was mine. Last I heard, Madison was bouncing between friends' couches, still spinning stories about how none of this was her fault. For the first time in my life, I didn't care what she said. One morning, nearly a year later, I was drinking coffee by the window when my phone buzzed. It was a message from Ethan. Hope you're doing well. Thanks again for everything. I smiled, typing back. Doing great. Hope you are too. And as I set my phone down, I realized I wasn't just free from Madison. I was free from the constant chaos that had defined my life for far too long.